Welcome to Crime and Coffee. My name is Rochelle. I'm new to YouTube. I have been following the Dan Markel case for quite a while. Just a background for myself and how I fell down this true crime rabbit hole that I'm on. I am an SA partner survivor, and court it's a hard thing to go through. You're on a roller coaster. You're up, you're down, I call it the hamster wheel. It's constantly rotating and you can never get off. So in my bid to try to understand the courts and how the judicial system works and all of this, and being from Canada, I don't have the ability to watch court cases in Canada. We don't do that. So I started watching court cases from the United States, thinking, okay, they are going to be a bit different, but they're not going to be to an extreme different like it would be in Europe to Canada. So I came across the Dan Markel case, and I read about it and found out that Danny was from Canada and very brilliant man, unbelievably brilliant, and that he lived in the United States. So I started watching the case and my mind was blowing. I could never imagine this ever happening. So my biggest thing is Wendi. I am confused with Wendi. I am angry with Wendi. I am just, oh my gosh, how is this woman still walking free today? So I have watched all these videos, and now I'm going to react to things that I've already reacted to, yelling at my TV screen. So today I'm going to do Wendi, her first time testifying, the retrial testifying, and her brother's testifying. And we'll just see how it goes from there. So bear with me, and please, if you find this video and you like it, give me a like, give me a share, and we'll keep going. So let's just get this started and go from there.
The record, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
At the podium.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. It's John Lauro, Lauro, and I'm counsel for Ms. Adelson.
All right. And it's my understanding that the state is requesting the court to compel Ms. Adelson's testimony. Is that correct, Ms. Kaplan?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And based upon that, Ms. Adelson's testimony you provide and anything derived from this testimony cannot be used against you, but you will be required to answer all relevant questions. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else you want to make?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Yes, sir.
All right. As Secretary, please.
Your Honor, could I just get an estimate on the time so I can tell the report?
I think she said about 45 minutes.
Would we then break after theirs and reserve cross for Tuesday?
No. We're going to finish today with this witness.
I understand. I don't believe they were going to be able to do the deposition today.
That's up to you.
You guys can secure a reporter for us.
Like right now, she's looking like, where's the exit? Where's the exit?
Oh, tonight you mean? Have to work on that. Don't know.
Wait.
Yours in the courtroom?
She's a lawyer, and she had to ask if she had to stand.
Everybody be seated, please. Proceed, Ms. Kaplan.
please introduce yourself and spell your name.
My name is Wendi Adelson, Wendiadelson.
How are you employed, Ms. Adelson?
I'm an attorney.
All right, and do you know,
Microphone up just a little bit, if you would, please, ma'am. All right?
I'm an attorney.
all right, how were you employed back in 2014?
I was employed at FSU Law School.
Okay, and were you a member of the Florida Bar at that time?
I was.
All right, and did you know Dan Markel?
Yes, I did.
How did you know Mr. Markel?
He was my husband.
When did you meet him?
We met in 2004.
Okay, and when did you marry?
We married in 2006.
Did you ever live in Tallahassee?
I did live in Tallahassee.
When did you first move to Tallahassee?
We moved to Tallahassee in the fall, August of 2005, and we lived in Tallahassee that academic year, so from 2005 until the summer of 2006. And then we spent a year living in Miami from 2006 to 2007, and then I lived back in Tallahassee from 2007 to 2014.
Why did you move to Tallahassee the first time?
The first time we moved to Tallahassee for Danny's job. He got a job at FSU Law School.
All right, and what about the second time?
And the second time we moved back to Tallahassee because he had tried to get a job at University of Miami Law School and it didn't work out.
Okay, I'm going
Alright.
to pause it
So
right here
both
for a second. So where she says that he tried to get a job at Miami University and it didn't work out. So she's saying that they wouldn't hire him. From my knowledge, that is not true. From my knowledge is they wanted to hire him, but he wanted a package deal, just like at FSU. So he's a tender university professor, and she is just a contract professor. So basically, that probably would have been the same way that he wanted it to happen in Miami, but they didn't want her. So he didn't take the job for her. It wasn't that they didn't want him, they wanted him. But she's playing it out here as, oh, it didn't work out. He didn't get hired. That is not true. He would have been hired. It's just they didn't have a need or want for her.
Times it was for his employment?
Yes,
Okay, did you like living in Tallahassee?
I did.
All right, and did you live on Trescott Drive?
We did.
Like, she had to think about that.
That was our home.
And where are you from, Ms. Adelson?
I'm from Broward County originally.
Okay, and do you have family members in Broward currently?
I have one family member in Broward.
Where do you live currently? Or you can just tell us.
I live in Miami-Dade County.
And what about your parents? Where do they live?
They currently live in Miami-Dade County.
All right, and what about your brother, Charles Adelson?
He lives in Broward County.
All right. And do you have any children?
I do.
And how many children do you have?
I have 2 children.
What are their ages?
They are 10 and 8, turning 9 soon.
Okay, both boys?
That
Both
baffles
boys.
me
And
too.
both
Like,
the
how do you not
biological
know
children
how
of
old your
Dan
children are?
Markel?
Yes.
How are your family members in
So again, I'm going to pause this because this caught my attention right off the bat. So on the big screen, they had a picture of the house and the car, Dan's car, in the garage. So this would have been a crime scene photo. Why does she keep looking back at the big screen? Why would she want to keep looking back at this screen knowing it's a crime scene photo? And excuse me for saying this, but is she wondering if he's still in the car, or if he's been removed from the car, or, oh, my drive, I didn't get to see this, so now she keeps looking back at the crime scene photo. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else sees it. It just really, it was confusing to me. I'm like, why does she keep doing this?
Employed, specifically your parents and your brother?
My mom is not currently working very much. She helps out with my dad's office. My dad is a dentist, and my brother Charlie is a periodontist.
And does your family have a dental practice in South Florida
They do.
that they own and operate?
They do.
Okay. Is your family in South Florida wealthy? I know it's a relative term.
Are you asking me to speculate?
No, I'm asking if they're wealthy.
So here where Georgia asks her if her family's wealthy. You know if your family is well off. You know. It just bugs me how she just wants to. I don't know. I can't.
Wealthy. You may, if you don't know, you say you don't know.
It depends how you define wealthy.
Okay. Are they millionaires?
No.
Look, there she goes again.
Okay. When did you separate from Mr. Markel?
We separated in the fall of 2012.
And was part of the reason for your disagreement or separation having to do with how to raise the children in terms of your faith?
Yes, we had different ways of practicing our faith.
Okay. Do you know when you filed for divorce?
I believe it was the fall of 2012.
Okay, 9/10/2012 sound right to you?
That sounds right.
And when you separated initially in the fall of 2012, did you move to South Florida with the kids?
No, I did not.
You didn't go to South Florida with the kids?
No, I did not.
Was it your desire during that time to move with the children to South Florida?
I would say right then, no, it wasn't.
Oh Lord.
Are you familiar with a court order ordering you to come back to Tallahassee from South Florida?
I'm not familiar with that.
When you moved out from the marital home there on Trescott Drive, you lived at another residence in Tallahassee, is that correct?
I did.
And do you recall the address there?
I do. 3303 Aqua Ridge Way.
Okay. And was there a time during the time that you were living there at Aqua Ridge that you determined that you would like to move to South Florida with the children?
There was.
All right. And were your parents very involved in trying to facilitate that relocation?
My parents were supportive of me moving to South Florida.
Would you describe your parents as being over involved in your personal business?
As compared to other people's parents?
Yeah.
Question with a question.
I don't know.
I don't know how Georgia
What was
does
the child
this.
custody schedule when you were living at Aqua Ridge? And I assume Mr. Markel continued to live in the marital home on Trescott?
He did.
Okay. What was the custody situation with the kids?
So the custody situation changed over time and depending on the part of the year. But I think in the beginning, we would do a Wednesday night overnight. It was about 50-50 shared custody, but I don't remember the exact arrangement. I do remember in the summertime it would switch to week on, week off, but during the school year it was slightly different.
So still 50-50, but not necessarily every other week. It was mixed up within the week.
It was.
Okay. And you mentioned that you did develop a desire to move to South Florida. Did you file a motion to that effect on January 14th, 2013?
That sounds, I did file a motion. I don't remember the exact date.
Okay.
but that sounds about right.
All right. And in that motion, did you make some allegations that Mr. Markel was making things difficult for you at work?
I did.
Okay. And was that motion granted or denied?
That motion was denied.
All right. Denied with prejudice?
I don't remember.
Okay.
If you have it, I'm happy to take a look.
Okay. But in any event, you were not able to move at that time.
I did not move.
So here, I know it's a word game and all this, but where Georgia says you were not able to move at that time, and she says I did not move. She's dismissing the fact that she was told she could not move. So I know it's a word game. I know it's a word salad, but it's these little things about her that just sends chills up my spine. Why not just say yes? Or the court said I could not move at this time. Not I didn't move. No, you didn't have a choice there, sweetheart.
And were you upset about being stuck in Tallahassee?
I was relieved.
You were relieved. You wanted to stay in Tallahassee.
I was happy at my job.
That was my head in.
Okay. Do you recall when your divorce to Mr. Markel became final?
The summer of 2013.
Okay. July 31st sound about right?
That sounds right.
Okay. Would you consider your divorce with Mr. Markel to be a nasty divorce?
I think most divorces aren't very pleasant.
Okay, but this one was like really unpleasant, right?
I found getting divorced to be unpleasant, yes.
And in the litigation that ensued.
So I'm gonna keep stopping because these are parts that just really annoy me. I find getting divorced was very unpleasant. I honestly cannot believe this woman in this moment. I cannot believe it. I don't think she found getting divorced unpleasant. I think she, in my opinion, I think she found it as a challenge, a game. I think it was a game to her. And like everybody knows how litigious this divorce was and how big Georgia's binders are of court documents. In my opinion, and Wendi Adelson is a very smart girl. I'm not going to take that away from her. Very well educated, all of this. Dan was a genius. And when I look at those binders and I look at Dan's motions and her motions, it's almost like who can be more, who could be the better one? Who's going to come on top? Who's smarter in this? Like, to me, to her, it was a game. And I say this because I recognize through my own things that I've been through, I recognize the manipulation coming from her. I can see it, and which really does bug me. And when I first started watching this, I'm like, why is Georgia not coming at her? Why is Georgia not saying, no, this is this, this is this? And then I paid more attention to the immunity that she has and how it can't be used against her if she's any of that. So I honestly, Georgia is sitting on a minefield because you can see Georgia back away from certain things, in my opinion. So I do not think she thought it was horrible. Getting divorced was, I think it was a game for her.
Between the two of you, you guys argued over things as small as a tennis racket, I noticed in one pleading.
I don't remember that.
Did he threaten to press kidnapping charges against you?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
I don't remember
that?
that. No.
Did he threaten to go after your law license? Remember that?
I don't remember that, no.
Do you remember him saying you failed to disclose a bunch of assets in the divorce process?
I do remember that.
Of course she
Did you
does,
guys
it
have
was
any
money.
mediations as part of your divorce?
We did have mediations leading up to settlement.
2 8-hour mediations, correct?
I don't remember how long they were, but they seemed very long.
Yeah, and they both did not result in a resolution.
They did not.
All right, but you did reach a settlement, I think, kind of just on the eve of a trial on the matter, correct?
That sounds right.
Do you remember this motion that was filed by your deceased ex-husband on March 26, 2014, involving, among other things, that had to do with your mother, an allegation that your mother was disparaging the children?
Objection.
I'm sorry.
Hearsay.
Overruled.
Disparaging him to the children is what I meant to say. Are you familiar with that pleading?
I am familiar with that pleading.
All right, and in that pleading, did he allege that you were depriving him of physical access to the children?
I don't remember the specifics.
Do you recall whether he was complaining about you refusing to communicate with him about right of first refusal to the children during your time with them?
I know he was frustrated about the Skyping.
Lack of communication via Skype?
It's hard
between
to
you and the
Skype
children?
with 2 toddlers, yes.
All right, and in that motion, do you recall him being upset about an allegation that you let the kids eat non-kosher foods?
I remember him being upset about that in general, but I don't remember whether it was in a motion or not.
What does that mean, non-kosher foods?
So kosher rules have to do with the separation of milk and meat, or dairy and meat. So non-kosher foods would be meat that hasn't been killed in a way that conforms with Jewish law, or the mixing of the two.
And is observing those types of eating habits something that's important to you?
It is not important to me.
And was it something that was important to Dan Markel?
It was important to Danny.
And it was important to him that the children observe that way of eating, correct?
It was.
And in that motion, did he seek to restrict your mother's contact with the kids to supervised visits only?
I don't remember, but if you'd like to show me the motion, I can take a look.
Okay, but you don't remember that portion?
No.
All right. Do you remember the allegation that your mother made statements to the children that grandma hates you,
Hearsay. Hearsay.
Overruled.
grandma says you're stupid, your father is trying to take my sunshines away, anything like that? Do you recall?
No, but again, I'm happy to look at it if you'd like to show me.
I understand. Do you recall that Mr. Markel was seeking sanctions
I
against you
love
personally
Georgia.
in that motion?
I don't remember that.
Do you know whether this would have been a motion that you would have shown to your mother? Would she have been aware of it?
I probably would have shown my mom the motion.
Is it fair to say that your parents are very protective of you?
I think that's fair to say.
Is it fair to say that your brother is very protective of you?
I think that's fair to say.
Okay. What about Dan Markel? Did your family like him?
Do you want to specify a point in time?
Well, I'm specifically thinking of a
Ever?
statement you made in the interview after his death, where you indicated that your parents were very angry with him. Is that accurate?
At that point in time, during our divorce, I do think they were angry with him. They felt like he had treated me badly.
And the motion to preclude your mom from having unsupervised contact with your kids, that was still pending at the time of his murder, correct?
That's possible. I mean, I don't think anyone took that motion very seriously.
Okay. Did your mom take it seriously?
I don't think so.
Did Dan Markel take it seriously?
I don't know how Danny felt about a motion. If he wrote the motion, he was probably taking it seriously.
I want to approach with some emails. Have you had an opportunity to review State's Exhibit 80?
Your Honor, could I see what the states of the children?
Go.
Your Honor, and I don't know if you want to do it now, or I'm gonna request a sidebar on this.
What's that?
I'm gonna request a sidebar on this, Judge.
Let her identify first.
This is State's Exhibit 80. Just take a moment and flip through, make sure this is the exhibit you've reviewed previously.
I've been shown these exhibits.
Okay. And are these exhibits fair and accurate copies of emails between yourself and your mother, Donna Adelson?
They are.
Okay. And the email addresses on this exhibit, donnaharvey@gmail.com. Whose address is that?
My parents have a joint email address.
Okay, but you were communicating with one of them in particular in these emails, right?
Whoever signed the email, but it could be from either or both of them.
Okay, either could have used it, but we can deduce from who signed it who this one is from?
That sounds right.
Okay, and Wendi Adelson@gmail.com, is that you?
That is me.
All right, Judge, at this time I asked to move into evidence, State's Exhibit.
We'll go sidebar. Let me give a brief legal explanation to the jury. You've heard a number of hearsay objections about things that were said by Mr. Markel, things that are in these emails by another person who may not be testifying. Normally, we refer to those things as hearsay, and they're not allowed without the person actually testifying, but there are a whole bunch of exceptions to that. And one of the exceptions to that is when it's not being offered to prove that what's said is true, but simply to show that it has been said because there's some relevance to the fact that these statements were made. So I am not offering these statements to show they're true. These persons, I mean, obviously Mr. Markel can't be here for us to have cross-examination of him. We don't anticipate that the other Miss Adelson will be here as a witness. We can't test. The attorneys will not be able to test that to see whether that's true or not, but I am allowing it for limited purposes to show state of mind of these persons. So you may proceed, Ms. Kappelman.
Yes, Your Honor. I noticed in the emails that your mother referring to, who I think is Dan Markel, as gibbers. What does that mean?
Gibbers was a nickname that I gave Danny when he was being really difficult and causing me a lot of pain. Was sort of a nickname I gave him to make him feel less threatening.
So it was a derogatory thing.
I wouldn't say it was derogatory.
Did you call him that to his face?
No, I called him Danny to his face.
Okay.
And gibbers would be what? How would you spell that?
I don't know that I ever spelled it out. In the emails, I think it's spelled with a J, but I guess you could spell it with a G.
Jibbers.
That would be one way to
Ms.
spell it.
Adelson, you had Mr. Markel's phone number programmed into your phone as Jibbers, didn't you?
That's right.
So you did at one time spell it out. Oh, it's the tiny little lies. I just can't get over. I can't. I'm so glad Georgia pointed that out. She called her out on that little bit of a BS right there.
Do you know much about your brother Charles Adelson's business practices?
I know that he does implant surgery.
Do you know anything about whether he offers discounts for cash or does a lot of business in cash?
I have no idea.
Do you know if there's a safe in your parents' house that has stacks of cash inside?
I don't know about a safe with stacks of cash.
So you don't have a stack of cash in your parents' safe that's Wendy's stack?
No.
Okay. Did Charlie Adelson like Dan Markel? And again, I'm referring to the time frame before his death.
I mean, I think he was also, he would listen to me when I would tell him about things I was upset about at the time with the divorce. So whether he liked him or didn't like him, he certainly was supportive of me.
Okay, but he never expressed any dislike.
No,
Did he mention hiring a hitman to kill your husband?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
no,
Did he ever joke about he looked into hiring a hitman, but buying you a TV as a divorce present would be cheaper?
he did make that joke. He tended to repeat himself, and sometimes he would make jokes that weren't very funny about all kinds of things.
All right, and was that TV, did he buy you a TV as a divorce present?
He did.
And
did.
was that TV the same TV that was being repaired at your residence at the time that your husband was murdered?
It was.
Who made the arrangements for that TV repair?
I did.
Your mom didn't make those arrangements?
I don't believe so.
And the repairman was at your house that morning that your husband died between 8:30 and 9:15. Do you agree with that?
I remember he was supposed to come between 8 and noon, and then he ended up coming on the early side.
That's when he arrived, between 8:30 and 9:15.
It's my best recollection.
Did Charlie ever say that he considered all possible options to take care of the problem being Dan Markel?
Objection, hearsay, and,
Oh.
Your Honor, may I just have a standing objection so I don't keep
You may.
interrupting Ms. Kathleen? Thank you.
Did he ever say that?
No.
After the murder of Mr. Markel, did Charlie Adelson take you out for a celebration dinner?
No.
Do you recall any dinner shortly after Mr. Markel's death where you were with Mr. Charlie Adelson and vomited?
I do remember that dinner. I'm sorry?
Go ahead, I interrupted you.
After Danny died, I was terrified that someone was going to come after me or my children and harm us as well. And so I didn't leave my house for about a month. And when I finally felt ready to leave the house and have dinner, I told my brother that I wanted to have dinner, that I was ready to finally go to a restaurant and eat a meal again. And I'd barely eaten for a full month, just out of grief and shock. And so that night, when I finally ate for the first time, they ended up taking a while before they sat us, and they sat us at the bar, and I had a drink, and I wasn't used to eating anything or drinking alcohol, and I threw up at the table, the only time in my life I've done something like that, but it was certainly not a celebration.
And you never heard your brother refer to it in that way?
No.
So I'm just going to pause it here because what I hear, and again, I'm going to say in my opinion, is after Danny died, after Danny was murdered, let's just call it that, he wouldn't have died if it wasn't for them putting a hit out on him. So after Danny was murdered, she was so afraid to go out, she was so afraid to eat, and it was pure grief. Oh, I tell you, this woman knows how to shovel it out. What I hear, and in again my opinion, is she was afraid to go out. Absolutely, guaranteed, but she wasn't afraid that somebody was coming after her and her children. She was afraid the police might be around the corner. She was afraid that maybe they caught on and she's being tailed. So I guarantee she did not eat in her home. But I am pretty sure that the fear was not of grief. The fear was of being tailed or, FBI watching them, whatever. So anyway, now what else I think of is at this dinner, and this is complete speculation on my part, but of watching Charlie and seeing how he was and the disgusting jokes that he thinks is funny. I think he made a joke. I think he made a joke about Danny's murder. And I think she got sick on the table. Like, how, like, that's extreme embarrassment right there. I would almost like to know the workers and what that were working that night and to see what type of, how they were acting while they were having this dinner. Because I'm sure they wouldn't have forgot the person that got sick at the table. But that is my view. She was petrified to go out 100%. I guarantee it, because she didn't know. She didn't know if the police were watching them, if they were under surveillance. None of this. So she went out with Charlie and she got sick, and I think it was a disgusting joke that Charlie made, and she vomited.
Were you involved in any way in a plot to kill Dan Markel?
No.
Do you have
No.
any knowledge other than the statements you said your brother made or the jokes your brother made? Do you have any knowledge of anyone being involved in a plot to kill your husband?
No.
Do you know Catherine Magbanwa?
I have met her before.
How do you know her?
We met one time at dinner.
Okay. So here, this is the funny part. How do you know her? Wouldn't the easiest answer be she dated my brother?
When I came home and my brother introduced me to her, and I think we might have gone to the beach once with her and a friend for a few hours.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as State's Exhibit 36. Is that a photograph of you and Catherine Magbanwa at the beach?
With her friend, yes.
Okay, and do you remember the friend's name?
I don't.
All right, is this a fair and accurate photograph from that event?
That looks like the three of us at the beach, yes.
Do you recall when this was taken?
I don't.
Okay, does Father's Day weekend 2014 sound correct?
So June 2014, that's
Yes, ma'am.
possible.
All right, would it refresh your memory to look at the data associated with that photograph?
Sure.
Okay. Take a look at this top block there that references this photo. Tell me if you can advise when the photo was taken.
It looks like it was taken on June 15th, 2014.
All right, and do you know where the photo was taken?
I think that's South Beach.
Close to where your parents were living in a condo?
Yes.
And did you say how you know Ms. Magbanwa?
She was dating my brother.
And there it is. That's the answer the first time around.
Is there objection?
None from Mr. Garcia, Judge.
None from Ms. McDonald, Your Honor.
It'll be admitted.
I'm the one in the middle,
And which one's Ms. Magbanwa?
the one on the left-hand side to the right of me in the photo.
And this one's her friend?
Yes.
Ms. Magbanwa's friend.
Yes.
Approach and show you one more.
Cameron was a little slow on that one.
State's Exhibit 37. That's this photo?
I don't recognize that photo, but I
That
recognize
officer's
the people
very
in it.
thirsty.
Okay, who's in it?
That's my brother, and I think that's Katie.
All right, is
Yes.
Is this a fair and accurate photo of the two of them when, I guess, during the time that they were dating?
That looks right.
Judge, at this time, I'd ask to move to evidence states 37.
Is there objection?
Yes, Your Honor, this witness is not able to properly authenticate that picture in terms of when it was taken and where it was taken, so I would object.
Sustained.
Your brother dated Catherine McVanois?
Yes.
Okay. And was that the context in which you became acquainted with her? Was through your brother?
Yes.
Do you know when they began seeing each other, your brother and Ms. McVanois?
I have no idea.
Do you know when they stopped seeing each other?
I have no idea.
Do you know whether the relationship between your brother and Ms. McVanois was a serious relationship?
I met many, many girlfriends of my brother's over the years. I didn't get any indication that it was a serious relationship.
Okay. He's a guy that has a lot of girlfriends.
He has had a lot of girlfriends.
How many girlfriends has he had since Catherine McVanois?
I have no idea.
Several?
Probably.
And does he have a child with someone now?
He does have a child.
How old is your brother?
43?
Has he ever been married?
No.
Do you know whether your brother makes a practice of giving gifts to his former girlfriends?
I have no idea.
Are you aware of any specific gift he's ever given to a former girlfriend?
No.
Do you know Sigfredo Garcia?
No.
Have you ever met him?
No.
I want to ask you about the week prior to Mr. Markel's murder, like June 30th through July 10th, 2014. Were you in South Florida that week?
I know I was in South Florida for my father's 70th birthday. My dad's birthday is July 5th. I don't remember if his party was on his actual birthday or a little before or a little after, but I remember I went down for his birthday.
Can you tell the jury whether or not you were in South Florida on July 1st, 2014?
I couldn't say for sure.
Okay, but it would
I
be
may have
good-
traveled that day. I don't remember exactly when I went down. I only remember I was there for probably about a week and that I went down for my dad's birthday. But I couldn't tell you more exactly than that.
Funny part for me is July 1st is Canada
Your
Day
dad's
here, so
birthday's on the 5th?
It
in
is.
my brain,
What month?
I'm like, how do you
Of
not
July?
recognize Canada Day? But I get it.
Was Mr. Markel planning to leave town the day after he was murdered?
I believe he was.
Do you know where he was going?
I believe he was going to New York to visit his girlfriend.
And how old was Mr. Markel when he was killed?
He was born in 1972, and he died in July of 2014, before his birthday's in October. He was 41.
41 years old.
Yes.
Did law enforcement in this case analyze your cell phone?
I gave them my cell phone.
Okay. And in your cell phone, you have some contacts for Donna Adelson, Harvey Adelson, and Charlie Adelson, as well as Jibbers, who we've established as Dan Markel. Are all the phone numbers in your phone for them accurate phone numbers for those folks?
I would imagine so.
And I want to ask you about some recorded phone calls that were taken in association with this case. Did you have an opportunity to review a disc of some of those phone calls?
I did. The phone calls weren't played.
I'm sorry, hold on just a minute.
Yeah.
All right, so I provided you with a disc, correct?
Yes.
And a list of the specific phone calls and the voices on the specific phone calls that I was asking you whether you could identify.
Yes,
All right. And did you initial next to the letters of those calls that you were able to identify?
I did.
All right, I'm going to approach and show you State's Exhibit 175. 175.
I just wanted to clarify that we didn't listen to the phone calls from beginning to end for each one, but that we were able to listen to parts of the phone calls so that we could authenticate who was speaking on the phone call.
Okay, and when you say we, who are you referring to?
Myself and my attorney.
Okay, so you listened to, you felt enough of the phone call in order to be able to tell me whose voice was on the call?
That's right.
Okay, and when you initial next to the highlighted portions, okay, I guess I should say, the calls are listed by letter and number, each call, and then I have highlighted the names that I am asking you to authenticate, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and if you've initialed next to that call, does that signify that you were able to authenticate that the highlighted names on that call were the voices of those people?
Correct.
Okay, so namely Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson, correct?
Correct.
All right. Judge, at this time, I'd ask to move into evidence states 175.
No objection.
There's an objection from Ms. McElhenney, Judge. I
Your
can't,
legal objection?
Your Honor, I think it would require a speaking objection, so I'm not sure how you would like to handle
State
it.
your legal objection.
The legal objection is going to be relevance at this point and improper foundation.
All right, I'll overrule that objection. No, admit, State's Exhibit 175.
This is off topic of Wendy, but you can hear Tara Koloss for Katie's lawyer. I do not know how this woman, and again, completely off topic, I don't know how this woman is still a lawyer, is still representing people, because now she's representing the, the Clenny girl, the OnlyFans model, or whatever she's called. How her client was given a get out of jail free card, and she just, her client's now life in prison, will never see her kids. That's a whole new story. Like Katie McBanama with, she didn't want to give up Sofredo Garcia because there was a chance of death penalty. I'm going off on a rant here because this really does bug me. She didn't want to give up that man. She didn't want to give up Charlie because, well, there's two men in her life. So she's now life in prison when she could have been home with her kids just to tell the truth. That's all she had to do was tell the truth. She was going to be home with her kids. But she didn't want to give up the two men in her life for her children. Sorry, rant over. Oh,
I want to talk about your location on the day of Mr. Markel's murder. You know that law enforcement looked at your phone and sort of looked at your movements that day?
Yes.
Okay. And that information indicates you were home at the Aqua Ridge residence at approximately 12:27 in the afternoon that day. Is that correct?
I don't remember exactly what time, but that sounds right. I know I had left to meet some friends for lunch, so I guess I was home until that time. That sounds right.
All right. So it seems like kind of around lunchtime, about half afternoon.
Sure.
All right. And then shortly after that, at 12:29, it appears you were traveling on Centerville Road. Is that a normal way that you would ingress and egress from your Aqua Ridge residence?
That sounds right.
All right. And when you left your residence, you said you were going to lunch. Did you go directly to lunch?
No, I stopped and made a purchase for a party that I was supposed to attend first.
And what was that purchase?
It was my first time purchasing bourbon. It was for not a bridal shower. It was for a bachelor, no, it was for a wedding party, but it was the bride and groom together, and they had asked for people to buy certain alcohol to help them.
Like a stock the bar party.
A stock the bar party. I forgot what
Yeah.
it's called.
Okay. And do you remember what type of bourbon you purchased?
I don't.
Does Bullet bourbon sound familiar?
Maybe. It was.
All right.
They had a list of what they wanted, and so I.
So that area there was, it seemed like she was very nervous. Like she's been calm and cool and collected this whole time. As soon as that bourbon or that stop or her travel from her home the day of Dan Markel's murder, instantly she was a little rattled. You can see it. It was, okay, here we go. Here, we're going to where I've got to really act. Like, as my mom says, I'm a good actor. I can put it on as, so this is where I find that the extreme acting, because the other questions were easy. The other questions were, how do you know Katie? Do you know Sigfredo? Asking her about the documents, the law motions, the divorce motions, things like that. Here's where I think that she gets rattled.
I asked the person at the store if they had whatever kind it was.
Okay. And do you recall where you went to purchase the alcohol?
I think I went on Thomasville Road at ABC Liquor.
Okay. Is there a reason you went to that particular store?
No, I don't know many liquor stores. That was the first one that popped up.
All right. And you made that purchase
Sure it
according
did,
to the
Wendi.
receipt
Sure
that was
it
in your
did.
vehicle at 12:49. Does that sound about right to you?
That sounds right.
Okay. And did you make any stops between leaving your residence and going to the liquor store?
Maybe I purchased gas?
I don't know if you did or not, but I'm referring to your visit to the crime scene.
I did not visit the crime scene.
Okay. You did not pull up to the crime scene tape on Truscott Drive?
No. I was driving on Centerville Road, and sometimes I would take the shortcut through Truscott.
Yes, ma'am.
But when I was driving on Centerville Road, I saw some sort of tape or obstruction, and so I didn't turn.
Okay.
Oh, I love it.
And then you went from the liquor store straight to the restaurant?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. And what restaurant was that?
Right. So when I first started watching this, because I had already known prior, because I watched Charlie's, and then I went back to watch all these. So I already known certain things about this whole part where the whole Trescott Drive, things like that. So when I went back and started watching the other trials, after the day was done on the Charlie trial, and I came to this part, I was like, what is Georgia doing? Like, call her out, And then I realized, okay, I get it. She's not pushing, and I noticed throughout the whole time, she didn't push this. Because this is something she has in her pocket. So when Miss Wendi Adelson gets some shiny bracelets, oh dear God, let's hope she gets some shiny bracelets. This is going to be, I think, in my mind, this is the thing that convicts her. I don't know why she wasn't honest straight from the beginning, and I will say my view, again, my perception of it, my thoughts on Wendi going to Trescott is I think she would have thought that her neighbors, because obviously she would have known they were retired, things like this. I don't think she would have thought her neighbors would have, maybe they had bad hearing. Maybe she knew that. Maybe in her mind, oh, they have bad hearing, this and that. Or maybe she thought Sigfredo or Louise had a silencer. Who knows? I honestly believe in my core she wanted to be the one to find Dan. She wanted to be the one to report. So she could look like this grieving ex-wife and stuff like this. And here's why I think this. She says at one point that her and Dan were playing phone tag that day in the morning. They were playing phone tag, and that they were supposed to meet up to go for maybe a walk on FSU grounds. So she knew that he was going to the gym. He had told her he was going to the gym from this time to this time, and then they would meet up. I honestly think that she played the phone tag so she could say, oh no, we were in contact and everything was good. We were going to go for a walk today. So she could find him. So she could take the heat off of her. And it's, I think, some sick in her head is where she could use that line that her mother used. The Adelsons have won. It's my view. I from the moment I started seeing the different stories of Trescott, I was like, she wanted to be the one to find him. Okay, we'll carry on.
What was the name of that restaurant?
Mosaic?
Mosaic.
Have you seen the photographs that were taken of your vehicle?
I have not. That looks like my car. That looks like bourbon, yeah.
Who had your kids the morning that Mr. Markel was killed?
The kids were at preschool.
But I mean, at what home did they wake up that day?
That morning, I think they were at Danny's.
That morning, I think they were at Danny's. See, these are the little things that are just annoy the crap out of me when it comes to this woman. You do not know if your kids woke up in your house or they woke up in your ex-husband's house. It's these little tiny things that, and this is, I would be sitting on my couch and I'd be like, what are you talking about? You don't know where your kids woke up? Like, come on.
House.
Did you stand to gain anything from your husband's death, like financially?
No.
Do you know how much the lawyers that assisted you with the divorce process and litigation that followed the divorce, do you know how much they cost?
How much my lawyers
How
or
much you
Danny's
spent on
lawyers?
lawyers, yeah.
I honestly don't remember.
Fair to say it was a lot of money?
It felt like a lot of money to me.
How many different lawyers did you have during the pendency of your divorce and the litigation that followed?
I had 3.
Do you know how many Mr. Markel had?
I don't remember.
Do you remember your mom suggesting a plan to offer Danny $1 million to allow the relocation of you and the children to South Florida?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
I'm sure I knew about it at the time that it happened, and then I had my memory refreshed about it recently.
Did you ever make the offer to Mr. Markel?
No.
Of course not.
Did you move to South Florida?
I'm just going to say this, because I just said, of course not. Now, it's wrong in 100 million thousand ways. But if she pardon me, if she really wanted to move down to South Florida, to relocate, and she wanted Dan to be in the kids' lives, she might have done that. It's wrong. Like, don't get me wrong. It is wrong in 100 million ways. But this has always bugged me also, is she just didn't want Dan around at all. She didn't want to have to answer to him about the boys. She did not want to have to share time. She didn't want him at all. There's no way to divorce a man and have him completely out of your life, or to have him completely out of the children's life, especially when he's Dan Markel and he loves his boys unconditionally, like they were his world. So, yeah, that offer wasn't going to give her the freedom that she wanted. That offer was going to keep her tied to Danny.
After their father was killed with the children?
So after he was killed, I packed a weekend bag and went to South Florida for what I thought would be a couple of days, maybe a week. My son's birthday was July 29th, and I thought we'd be back in Tallahassee by then.
Did you ever come back?
I did come back a few times, but not permanently.
Okay, so you ended up moving there permanently.
I wouldn't say it's permanent, but I'm living there right now.
Okay. Well, it's been 5 years.
It has been a while. I've been exploring options for employment in many different places.
Okay. And when you initially left to go to South Florida, was that the same day as the funeral service for your husband?
No.
Was it the day after?
It might have been the day after or the day after that. I don't remember.
Did you change your children's last name
Lord.
from Markel to Adelson?
I did.
When was that done?
So after Danny died, there was a lot of press coverage, and CNN put pictures of my children's faces unblurred on national television. Newspapers put their names without any consideration to the fact that they're children. And
I
I thought,
appreciate that, but the question is when did you change their names?
when they started school, I registered them under my name, hoping it would keep them safe.
And was
then
that approximately a year after their dad was killed?
it was whenever I registered Ben for school, so it was soon after. But I didn't legally change their name until after that.
Okay.
So this part goes back to what I was just saying, how she didn't want Danny to have anything. She didn't want to be tied to him in any way. So she changes the boy's name. There's another tie gone. That's why I say that $1 million offer, as bad as it is, would have gave her move to South Florida. And I'm not saying Dan Markel would have accepted it. I'm not saying that. I'm 100%. I'm just saying the option in her brain and her family's brain was this would allow you to relocate to South Florida, to Miami, and for Dan to, either fly back and forth to Tallahassee, be there with his kids. She didn't want that. She wanted him gone. She didn't want him to have no say in those kids' lives. She didn't want him to have she didn't want to have to arrange her time with Dan. She wanted him gone. Erased everything. And this is why I believe that is true, because the minute she had the chance, she erased even his last name.
And where did they start school? When you say you changed their name when they started school, was that here in Tallahassee or somewhere else?
No, it was in South Florida.
So that fall, they started regular enrollment like you would in the normal beginning of the school year?
That's right.
Okay. And did you also eliminate your older son's middle name?
When I legally changed their names, I did.
And you just dropped that from the name?
I did.
Okay. And that was a name that came from Dan Markel's deceased maternal grandmother, is that correct?
The name started with an A, which was to honor my grandfather, Aaron Adelson, and the second half of his name was to honor Danny's grandmother.
Okay.
So we lost an honor to both families.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
And again, this comes back to me saying she wanted to wipe any memory, anything to Dan. Why get rid of the middle name? I just don't get it. So my son carries, I'm divorced, my son carries his father's last name. Never once, and this man was not good, never once did I think, I'm going to change his last name. I don't get it.
Cross Garcia.
Thank you, Judge.
Ms. Adelson, I represent Mr. Garcia, and I'm going to ask you some questions, okay?
Okay.
Charlie's your older brother or
I'm-
younger brother?
I'm the youngest in the family, so both my brothers are my older brothers.
And how many years older is Charlie than you?
He's approximately 3 years older.
Would you describe your relationship with your brother as a close relationship?
I would.
And the brother I'm referring to is Charlie. And just for the record, all the questions I have with regards to brothers is going to be focused just on your brother Charlie, okay?
Okay.
Charlie graduated high school,
He did.
college,
He did.
dental school,
He did.
so he has substantial educational background.
Yes.
Would you consider him to be book smart?
He did very well in his classes.
So that would
So,
potentially be a yes.
yes.
What about street smart? Do you think he was kind of street smart?
I think he's
I'm just gonna go back a second here because this makes me laugh where her mouth is saying yes and her head is saying no. I'm just gonna go back a couple seconds here.
Referring to as Charlie. And just for the record, all the questions I have with regards to brothers is going to be focused just on your brother Charlie, okay?
okay.
Charlie graduated high school,
He did.
college,
He did.
dental school,
He did.
so he has substantial educational background.
Yes.
Would you consider him to be book smart?
He did very well in his classes.
So that would
So,
potentially be a yes.
yes.
What about street smart? Do you think he was kind of street smart?
I think he's good with people.
And would it be fair to say that he has a wide range of friends, different types of friends?
He has a lot of friends.
Would you say, well, are there certain friends that he goes out nightclubbing with?
I don't know. He doesn't talk to me about night clubbing.
Okay. Well, when he has social events, do you ever go out with him socially?
I haven't in a long time. I'm pretty busy with my kids. But I have once or twice gone out with him.
And is it the same types of friends that he goes out to these social events with?
He would usually go with his roommate, who's, I don't think they're living together anymore, but they lived together for a while.
Would you agree with me that your brother Charlie was I don't want to call him like a socialite, but he would frequent the nightclub scene?
I honestly don't know that.
So your single brother is a pretty handsome guy, right?
I think he's handsome.
Right. We've seen his pictures. Good-looking guy. Never been married, right?
No.
And what kind of car does he have?
For a while, what does he have? What is he driving right now?
Well,
He
let me-
likes
let me-
cars. Like
He has a lot of cars, right? And these aren't like Hondas or Toyotas. They're Mercedeses and Ferraris, right?
he drove an unmarked police car for a while.
But that wasn't my question. My question was, did he ever have a Mercedes?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, and it wasn't like a C300, it was like a 5 Series, right?
I honestly don't know anything about cars.
Well, it was the bigger Mercedes, right?
It was big.
It was the bigger one, and he also had a Ferrari, right?
I know he had one really fancy car, but I don't remember what brand it was.
Okay. So you're telling this jury that you don't remember if your brother had a Ferrari?
Cars are really not important to me. You saw mine. I drove a minivan.
Cars aren't important to me, and I would know what a Ferrari
But
is.
you're not your brother, right?
I am not my brother.
And
No,
you-
I knew he had a fancy car. I just don't remember if it was a Porsche or if it was a Ferrari. It was something fancy.
Something kind of fancy,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So you have a pretty successful brother, right?
He's successful, yeah.
And he likes to show off his success with his extravagant cars, correct?
He likes fancy cars.
Okay. Handsome guy, in good shape, right?
He's handsome.
And you indicated that he had a lot of girlfriends, right?
Yes.
Now, I know you didn't go clubbing with him, but were you aware that he would go to like Miami Beach a lot?
I mean,
Or South Beach?
Sure. I mean, I couldn't say how often he went out or where he was going. It's just not something I would really talk to him about.
When your brother took you out to dinner and you vomited, do you remember what the restaurant was?
I do.
Which restaurant was it?
It's called Uvia.
Okay, where's that located?
It's on Lincoln Road.
Okay, and Lincoln Road's in South Beach, right?
Lincoln Road is in South Beach.
Are you aware if your brother took steroids?
No, I'm not aware if he took steroids.
What about if your brother used illicit drugs?
I'm not aware of my brother using illicit drugs.
And the fact that you're not aware if he used it doesn't mean he didn't use it, correct?
No, I'm just saying I don't know.
Do you know when Luis Rivera started serving your brother drugs?
I don't know anything about that.
Your brother would frequently.
I just want to pause it there because I have tried to look through things and I have not anywhere saw where it states Lewis was supplying Charlie with drugs. If anybody out there does know of that, please let me know because I'd like to look into it. But from watching Lewis's testimony, he didn't even know who Charlie was. So this must be just a defense thing for Sigfredo. But yeah, I always wondered about it.
Go to South Beach and Miami Beach sometimes, correct?
I don't know.
You don't know? The restaurant that he took you to was in South Beach, correct?
I was living close to that restaurant at the time.
And your parents had a home in South Beach also, correct?
My parents did not have a home in South Beach. They were renting an apartment.
I'll rephrase it. They had a place to stay in South Beach, correct?
Correct.
Word salad. I'm just going to step away.
I have no further questions.
Thank you, Madeline.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Adelson.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing today? You doing okay?
I'm fine.
You nervous?
Am I nervous?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm nervous.
Okay. Now, you stated on direct examination that you are a lawyer,
I am a lawyer.
right? So you understand that the oath that you took before you took the stand, correct?
Yes,
You know the consequences of not being truthful here,
of course.
and you also have a separate obligation as an attorney to tell the truth, right?
Of course.
Okay. Now, do you know who killed Dan Markel?
No,
Did your brother have anything to do with killing Dan Markel?
I don't believe so.
Your mother is Donna Adelson.
She is.
Where is she right now?
Right now, she's with my children
Not in
In-
Tallahassee.
in Miami.
Okay, she's not in jail.
No,
She's never been arrested before.
no,
Okay. She's not even testifying in this case, is she? To your
No.
knowledge?
To my knowledge, no.
What about your brother Charlie? Is he in Miami right now?
He's probably in Fort Lauderdale right now?
Okay, but he hasn't been arrested,
No,
hasn't been charged,
no,
and he's not testifying in this case, is he?
no.
Okay. Are you aware if the state has attempted to subpoena them to come to court?
I believe they have received a subpoena to come to court.
Okay, and it was for them to come and testify in this trial, or you don't know?
I don't know for certain.
Okay, but you know they've received some form of subpoena?
I heard about that.
Okay. When is the last time you spoke to your family? Your mom, in particular?
This morning, I called to check in on the boys.
Okay. How is your relationship with your parents now? Is it estranged in any way, or you still have a good relationship with your parents?
I still have a good relationship.
What about your brother Charlie?
I still have a good relationship.
When is the last time you spoke to Charlie?
Probably last week at some point.
Okay. Now, you had mentioned that Charlie is a father.
He is.
When did he have his child? Is it a boy or a girl?
It's a boy.
Okay,
He was born in December 2017.
okay. So about, I would say that's over a year after Miss McBanwell's arrest.
I couldn't say.
Okay. Do you know who the mother of that child is?
I do.
Who is she?
You want her name?
Yes.
Her name is Bree Price.
Okay.
I do feel
And
bad for,
Is he married to her now?
He's not married.
Are they still together?
for Bree.
Depends on the day.
And do you know if he has any other girlfriends at this
I
point?
have no idea.
All right. Have you been keeping up with the media coverage in this case?
I don't watch any media related to this case.
Okay. So, but you are aware of the attention that has been brought on this case?
I'm aware only because of the constant death threats that I receive, yes.
Okay. So just to specify, you haven't watched any of the specials that have been on air about this case?
I have not watched any
I
of them.
do
Do
not
you know
believe
if
that for
your
a second.
parents have watched any of the specials on this case?
I advise them not to. They may have seen bits of them, but I don't know for certain.
What about your brother Charlie?
I don't know.
Did you watch the state's opening statement in this case?
I did not.
You did not?
I did not.
Okay. So you're not aware of what the state's theory is in this case?
I'm not.
Now, you mentioned on direct examination something about listening to some recordings that the state provided to you.
Yes.
Okay. Is that the first time you ever listened to those recordings?
Yes.
Do you know what those recordings are about?
There are many, many recordings.
Okay. Did they give you all of the recordings?
I don't know. I listened to what I was given, but I don't know if there's more.
How much time did it take you to listen to the recordings that you were given?
Again, I didn't listen to the entire thing, so probably about an hour to go through all of the recordings and listen to excerpts of each of them.
Of each of them. So you're not aware if the state gave you all of the recordings that they provide, that they have in their possession?
I have no idea.
Okay. Did they have you listen to any recordings that occurred before April 19th of 2016?
I don't-
2016.
So I'd have to see the document to remember the exact date on it. I do remember my birthday's in April, so I remember the dates being close to that, but I don't remember exactly.
Did they ask you to listen to the phone call where Charlie Adelson is talking to Miss McBanwell about work?
I listened to something.
Sustained.
So it's fair to say that they only let you listen to portions of the phone calls that they think are important?
I was given conversations and I listened to some of them to authenticate voices, but I don't know. I imagine they thought it was important for me to listen, that's why I did.
Did you listen to a phone call?
Ask your question, don't answer until I rule, please, ma'am.
That will be wrong if the question contains.
Let's go that far. Needed to wake y'all up.
Sorry about that. I had to step away.
Go ahead and explain.
So the question was, Ms. Adelson, did they have you listen to any phone calls where it was a conversation between your brother and your mother, if you were able to identify any conversations like this?
I think I did yes.
Now I want to talk about the circumstances surrounding your actual divorce,
Okay,
which I believe you said was finalized in 2013, right?
yes.
You just left your divorce papers on a mattress of Dan Markel in the house and left town. Is that correct?
No.
How is it that you delivered the divorce papers to him?
I called him to let him know that I wanted a divorce. It wasn't the first time I asked for a divorce, but it was the last time. And told him that I would see him when he got home. Not home, but back to Tallahassee. And then I did leave the papers for him, but I didn't leave town. I was still in Tallahassee.
Okay.
So I'm going to pause it right there. So this is another thing that just doesn't make sense why you would lie about. Because there is photo proof that she left the documents on a bed. I just don't understand why you would lie about something. Maybe she doesn't realize there's photo proof, but I don't know. Again, these little lies just make her look more and more guilty.
So he was actually aware of that you were going to be seeking a divorce before you actually delivered the papers to him?
I had asked for a divorce several months earlier.
Okay.
That's when we started going to counseling. And he told me that if I tried to get divorced from him, that I could leave with the clothes on my back and that he would take the kids and that I would be penniless. And so when I actually asked for a divorce, I thought it best not to be there.
So is it fair to say that this was not a mutual thing between the two of you, that Danny did not want a divorce?
I don't think he wanted to get divorced.
Oh, of course he didn't. He tried to win her back.
How close is your brother's relationship, Charlie Adelson, with your mother, Donna Adelson?
I think they're close.
Would you characterize their relationship as closer than you are with your mother?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I do think they talk more frequently than I do, but I don't think closeness always has to do with the frequency of communication.
And you had said on direct that your parents were not happy with Dan Markel's behavior during the divorce.
No, they didn't think he was treating me well.
And is this just Donna Adelson, your mom, or was it both Donna and Harvey Adelson?
I'm sure both of my parents felt that way.
Did they ever express those feelings to you?
Yes,
Did they call him names?
yes.
Okay. Did one parent do that more than the other, or it was consistent between the two?
I think it was consistent between the two.
Okay. What kind of names did they call him?
I mean, I've had my memory recently refreshed, so I saw things, but my memory is, I don't remember name calling, but I did recently see emails where they called him names.
Now, after the divorce, you started dating
I did.
other people, right? When is it that you had your first, I wouldn't say serious boyfriend, but your first boyfriend after Dan Markel?
Probably within a month.
Okay. When did he, if you know, did he start seeing anybody else after the divorce?
He did, but I don't know when it started.
Okay. And is that Amy, or was it some other person?
I know about Amy, but I don't know if there were other people before Amy.
Did you know what, at the time of the murder, do you know what, if any, future plans Dan Markel had?
I couldn't really say about his future plans, but I felt like by then he and Amy were pretty serious, and he was trying to spend as much time in New York as possible.
Do you know if his intention was to, and it's only if you know, it was his intention to remain in Tallahassee, or do you know if he was planning to leave the state?
I think he always planned on leaving Tallahassee. It was just a question of when.
Okay. Do you know why? Did he have an aversion to Tallahassee, or
No,
just...
it wasn't an aversion to Tallahassee.
Okay.
He was a very ambitious person, and so from the moment we arrived in Tallahassee, he was always looking for a stepping stone toward a better university where he could teach.
And he took a very...
I understand the better university, but from what I know, Tallahassee FSU is an extremely good university. And I think that this probably doesn't play well with a Tallahassee jury because you're like, well, this was just a stepping stone. He was going to look for a better university. I understand there's Ivy Leagues, things like that, but if I was a juror sitting and listening to her say that, I'd be like, what the heck's wrong with our university?
Special interest in what he did, which is he's a law professor.
Right,
He graduated from Harvard, and he studied criminal law.
right, that was his specialty.
Okay. And did there come a time where you were dating someone by the name of Jeffrey Lacasse?
Yes,
You know who that is.
I do.
Do you remember when you started dating Jeffrey Lacasse?
I don't remember exactly, but 2013,
Okay. Do you remember how long you dated him for?
I remember it was less than a year, but probably more than 6 months.
Were you dating him at the time leading up to the homicide, which would be July 18th, 2014?
We broke up a few weeks before Danny was killed, or a week or so. We broke up before Danny was killed.
How would you describe your relationship with Jeffrey Lacasse?
I mean, I think it took different turns. I think it was more casual in the beginning, and then it was getting more serious. And then I was feeling more committed to the relationship. And then in late June, we had this big fight. And after that point, I didn't really want to be with him anymore.
Do you know what the fight was about? Do you
I
remember?
I remember what the fight was about.
What was it about?
He didn't trust me.
In terms
Stalker.
of
He
seeing
thought
other people?
he thought I was cheating on him.
Okay. And you said you broke up, when was that?
We broke up. It would have been one of the last weekends in June.
So fairly close to when the homicide occurred.
Right.
Now, that spring break, which would have been the month of March, didn't you and Jeffrey Lacasse come down to Miami?
We did.
Okay. And you stayed with your brother, Charlie?
We did.
Okay. And do you know at that time who he was dating?
I don't.
Okay. Does it sound, if I say that was when he was dating Catherine Magbanua, is that a correct statement or you don't remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember having dinner with Jeffrey Lacasse at a restaurant and with your brother and that Catherine Magbanua was there?
I have a vague recollection of it.
Okay. And do you remember if this restaurant had outside seating?
We always used to go to the same restaurant, and so I know the restaurant, it has outside seating.
Okay. And when you met Catherine Magbanua, Charlie introduced you to her as his girlfriend?
Probably.
Okay.
Definitely as someone he was seeing, right? I don't remember if he used the term girlfriend, but in a romantic kind of way,
Okay.
not as just a friend.
And am I characterizing Mr. Charlie Adelson correctly when I say, you had said he has lots of girlfriends?
I've met lots of girls over the years, which is why it's hard to remember whether I had dinner with one person versus another.
She really does keep throwing her brother under the
Does he not
bus.
believe in marriage?
I don't think he's so pro-marriage, no.
Okay. Do you know how many times you met Katie? We talked about the time on the beach, and then we've already now talked about dinner.
I remember vaguely those two. I don't remember any other time.
Do you remember the name of the person that was in that picture with you?
No,
Okay. Does Yindra Velasquez Mascaro sound familiar?
no.
Okay. Now, you didn't have a really close relationship with Katie, right?
No,
Okay. Did you know that Katie has 2 kids?
I did.
Remember, Miss Kawas, we're not gonna get a first name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Judge, I apologize. Did you know that Miss Magbanua had children?
I did know that.
Okay. Did you ever discuss with Miss Magbanua the details of the divorce that you had before she even knew who your brother was?
That wouldn't be possible because I only met her with my brother.
Okay, so you didn't talk, your relationship wasn't a close relationship where you would talk to her about Dan Markel?
No,
Do you ever remember having a conversation with Miss Magbanua about Dan Markel and your divorce?
It's very possible that I brought it up, but not,
Nothing stands out.
no, not at all.
Now, I want to talk to you about the time of the murder, okay? The day before the homicide, all right?
Okay,
You had talked about your custody situation with Dan Markel, that it was a week on, week off. Is that correct?
that's right. at
And
that
an
time.
overnight stay switch on a Wednesday.
That's my best memory.
So a better way to describe it would be, if it's your week, you have the boys, but on Wednesday night, they will sleep at Dan Markel, do an overnight sleepover at Dan Markel,
Right.
and then return them to you the next day.
Or return them to school, and then,
you pick them up in the evening.
right.
So the day of the homicide, do you remember what day of the week that was?
I believe it was Friday.
Okay, so the day before would have been a Thursday.
Right.
Okay, do you remember what you were doing that day?
I don't.
Is there any way that you would have been walking down Trescott Drive with your two sons the day before his murder?
No, I don't live in walking distance, so there's no reason why I would have been walking down the street. No.
You and Mr. Markel weren't on that kind of talking or speaking terms where you would be at the Trescott home and he wasn't there?
No.
Okay. You wouldn't go and take the boys for a walk on Trescott Drive?
I don't think so, no.
You think you know or you don't know? I don't think so. Well, have you ever taken your boys for a walk?
And as far as you knew at that time, the kids, what school were they attending?
They went to creative preschool.
Okay, and when you would drop the kids off at creative preschool, do you have to sign them in?
You do have to sign them in.
Okay, and then, so there should be a record of the days that the boys would have been at the preschool.
That's right.
What time would you drop the boys off? Do you remember? Is it an early morning thing, or?
I would drop them off in the morning. I don't remember, maybe it was 8, maybe it was 9.
But nothing late, like 11.
I don't think so.
And then what would be the usual time you pick them up in the afternoon?
I think it would depend on whether I was teaching or if I had court, what I was up to, but my guess is sometime between 3 and 6, I would pick them up.
So would it be fair to say that, you know, around 11 o'clock in the morning, the boys would probably be in school on a weekday?
That would be right.
Okay. Do you know someone by the name of Whitney?
I do know Whitney.
Who is Whitney?
Whitney was a girlfriend of my brother's.
Okay. Do you know who introduced Charlie to Mr. Adelson to Whitney?
I don't.
Do you know how long they were dating?
I don't.
Do you remember when they started dating?
I don't remember when they started dating.
Okay. When did your brother buy you that TV?
I remember having the TV in the house on Aqua Ridge. So sometime after the fall of 2012. Sometime between 2012, 2013, something like that.
Do you remember making a phone call to Charlie that morning and having a conversation with him without going into the details of that conversation?
Which morning?
The morning of Danny's murder.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Judge. Mr. Markel's murder. Do you remember how long you spoke for?
I don't remember how long I spoke for.
Now, you had described your brother as a talker.
So I'm going to stop it there because, oh, wait, no, because they didn't. Yeah, so I just answered my own question. So I was like, oh, I wish there was phone tapping then because that 18-minute call would have been interesting.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think I described him as more of a joker than
Joker.
a talker, but he does talk.
Do you remember the circumstances under which he made that statement that the state talked about hiring a hitman, but instead I got you this TV? Who else was around when this statement was made?
Well, he tends to repeat himself, so he kept repeating that joke because he thought it was funny.
Okay, but do you remember the time frame of when that happened? Like, was this way before, you know, during the course of your divorce, or was this after?
It would have been when he bought the TV.
When he bought the TV. And that would be after the divorce.
Well, not after I filed for divorce, right? But not after the divorce was finalized. So sometime after, I really don't remember when I got the TV, but maybe sometime starting with the fall of 2012, sometime around then, but it could have been 2013.
Do you know, now your parents' apartment on South Beach, are they still living there?
No,
Okay, so they moved.
they did.
At the time, do you know how much their rent was in that apartment?
I have no idea.
You said they did not own that property.
No,
Okay. And now you said that you stayed in Tallahassee after the homicide.
I stayed for a few days.
Okay. And do you recall if Detective Isom tried to call you
After I had left,
before you left Tallahassee, but after the memorial service from Mr. Markel?
he did not call me before I left Tallahassee, no.
Okay. Did he try to call you?
He called me when I was already on the road.
Okay.
About 4 hours away from Tallahassee.
All right. Did he ever try to talk to you again?
No.
As a prosecution? When is the first time the prosecution reached out to you to speak to you about what happened?
I don't remember ever talking with the prosecution.
Object, proper question.
Let's go sidebar.
Proceed, Your Honor? Okay. Do you know if Detective Isom ever tried to reach out to your parents?
I don't think he did.
Do you know if
Lies.
Detective Isom ever tried to speak to your brother Charlie?
I don't think he did.
Now, you are testifying today under a state subpoena, correct?
Correct.
And that state subpoena gives you immunity for your testimony, right?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury, since you're an attorney, what immunity is?
Immunity is freedom from prosecution.
So that means that anything you say today can't be used against you if the state decides to arrest you later on.
The state isn't going to decide to arrest me.
Oh yes, honey, they are going to. Oh, this is manipulation at its finest. This woman.
Do you know if they consider you a suspect?
I don't know.
Now, the life insurance policy that the state was asking you about, have you received any money from the life insurance policy from Mr. Markel?
I don't know if maybe in the beginning, the life insurance that Danny owed me about $100,000 when he died. I do think that his family made that disbursement. I don't know if they paid that through the life insurance policy, but other than that, there's been, the life insurance policy is money put away for the kids. I've never seen it.
Do you have access to that, or you have no control over that?
I have no control over that.
All right. All right, and I have, where did you say, so your boys are now down in Miami with your mother, correct?
At the moment, yes.
Okay. And you stopped letting Danny's parent, or Mr. Markel's parents, see the boys, is that correct?
2 years after Danny died, I stopped visitation.
Okay, do you have any intention of letting them see their grandchildren again?
I do. We've actually been in discussion the last few weeks.
No further questions, Judge.
Redirect.
How many times have Dan's parents been able to see your boys in the last 5 years?
In the last 2 years after they died, they've been able to see them every time they've asked to see them.
Okay, what about the last 3 years?
Since 2016, they have not been permitted to see the boys.
They have not been permitted
That's right.
by you,
By me, yes.
right? And that's not through lack of trying on their part.
No, that's because of what they did.
Okay, but they want to see those boys, don't
They
they?
very much want to see the boys.
All right. And Dan Markel's sister is the, I'm not sure if this is the right word, but the executor of that trust for the boys, is that right?
I think she has fiduciary responsibility over the trust for the
All right,
boys.
thank you, that sounds right. Did you at one time hold that position in Dan's will?
Oh, before we got divorced, I probably did.
Okay, but sometime after the divorce, he changed that over to the sister.
He must have, yes.
Okay. And
So
did
what,
you
she didn't know.
initiate proceedings to try to fight that decision that he made to make the sister the executor or the beneficiary, have the fiduciary duty for this money over you, through the disbursement to your children?
Can you can you
Okay,
rephrase the
so
question for
did
me?
you initiate any type of proceeding at any point to try to contest or fight Dan Markel's sister being appointed as this fiduciary for the life insurance for the boys?
I don't believe that I did.
You did not.
I don't remember doing that, no.
No further questions.
I need your,
This is why where I used to say, oh my God, Georgia, just nail it through. But now I realize she can't. She needs to keep stuff in her pocket. And I believe this question is something she got her to deny it, but she's already got the evidence. So she can use this in her trial. I 100%, because if you listen to Georgia's voice, she's like, you didn't. I think she has this in her pocket, that she tried to fight for that money and to have full access to it. I hope and pray that she gets arrested. And here's my thing. So Donna got arrested after Charlie's conviction, and it probably wouldn't have been right away, because I believe it was Tim Jansen saying on STS that the grand jury was going to be seated. I think it was like the following Tuesday or the following Thursday from the day that Donna got arrested. And so they're going to use Wendi in her mother's trial. That's just going to be, oh my goodness. Like, I know by watching Katie Kool-Lady and Fancy Fiction and STS, I love all three of these people. Pretty Lies and Alibis, absolutely love these guys. That I know for a fact you're going to see Katie Kool-Lady, Fancy Fiction, and Joel from STS in that courtroom. And I would love to see that moment where Wendi has to testify against her mother. Now, they're probably still going to obviously give her use and derivative immunity. But wouldn't it be something when the minute she walks out of that courtroom, clink, clink. That would be just amazing to see this woman actually pay for her deeds. And while I'm saying that, I have watched a few things, and Ruth, and what an amazing woman Ruth is, has asked creators, podcasters, all of that to remember what you're saying about Wendi, because there's no division between Wendi and those two boys. There's no separation, and she's right where she said the audiences have changed. Like, where the boys were so young, now they're teenagers. Now their friends are teenagers, and this and that. And you know what? I will say this too. If my son came home and said to me, "Oh, Mom, I'm so and so's friend," and the so and so's friend's mother was, you know, Wendi, then I would be very cautious. I would be very cautious, because this is manipulation here. And I would be so cautious of my child being around her, not the boys, her. And I would have to, as a parent, you'd have to watch what you say to your children. because they're going to go tell their buddies. They're going to say this to their friends. So these boys are getting it from every angle, and unless she's got strict rules where they're not allowed to have cell phones or they're not allowed to have a computer or anything like that, these boys are getting it from the internet. These boys are getting it from mainstream media. They're getting it from friends. It's everywhere. So I will echo what Ruth has said, and I don't have subscribers. I'm new. I don't have subscribers. I don't have followers or any of this at the moment. But if this video does get out, I am going to echo what Ruth said, and please, everybody, please understand that these two young lads it's not their fault. They're going to have so much trauma to deal with as they grow up, even into their adulthood. And just as much as I would like to sit here and say, Wendi, this, and this, I can't, because these two boys, there's no separation. There will be a separation at some point, and I hope and pray that there is a support system in the works for these two boys before it happens.
I have a question of this question. If you do, write it down. We'll go sidebar. Ms. Adelson, I don't remember what it related to exactly. I mean, I remember you saying this, and one of the jurors had a question about, you said your memory had been refreshed about something. What did you mean by that?
So over 5 years have passed since Danny died, and I'm
Speak
sorry,
to them.
sorry. So more than 5 years have passed since Danny died, and a lot of the things that we're talking about today, I just don't remember at all. And so to refresh my memory, to make sure that I could remember things, certain documents were shown to me, emails, legal pleadings from the case, so that I could remember what was happening at that time.
One of the jurors was a little confused with the timing. You had said you had a boyfriend, and that it was not clear to them whether you said it was a month after your separation and filing for divorce or a month after it was finalized.
Sure. So I started dating someone who was a friend of mine for many years, and it didn't become romantic until after I had filed for divorce. So about a month after I filed for divorce, someone who was a friend in my life became more like a boyfriend than a friend.
Okay. What was wrong with the television that had to be repaired?
I think one of my kids might have thrown something at it, so there was a crack in the TV.
And why have Mr. Markel's parents not been allowed to see the grandchildren?
Well, they were allowed to see the grandchildren for 2 full years, and I used to cook meals for them and arrange play dates. We had sleepovers, and then I found out that that Ruth Markel had reached out to a foster care agency to try to place my children with that agency, and I became very worried that they were trying to take my children away from me. And so after that time, I didn't feel a level of trust that they could spend time with the kids. I was afraid they were trying to take them from me.
Okay. Follow up, Ms. Captain.
You go, Georgia.
Your reference to the foster care agency, does that have to do with an email that was sent to me from your mother-in-law?
Yes, it does.
All right, that Dan's mother.
Yes.
And that email was in reference to, in the event that you and your parents were arrested in association with this crime, could I please contact that particular agency to assist with the children in the event they have no guardian temporarily until they could get down here from where they reside in Canada? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so they were not trying to take your children unless there was an event where you were unable to care for them.
But because there's no event in which I would be unable to care for them, that feels like trying to take away my children.
Okay, thank you.
Ugh,
Garcia,
No follow-up question for me.
McMahon.
see the attitude there? Oh,
And this email about there being possible arrests of you and your family, that came right after Catherine McMahon was arrested, right?
I don't remember exactly the timeline of that.
Okay, thank you.
Further, Ms. Captain? No, sir. All right, you can step down. Do we need to keep this witness any further?
No, Your Honor.
Anybody need her any further? McMahon?
One brief moment, Your Honor.
Hold on a second, Ms. Adelson.
Under subpoena, Your Honor.
All right, you remain under their subpoena.
Your
Right,
Honor,
you.
Ms. Adelson has a flight tonight at 7 p.m. May she return home and is
Right.
subject
You
to
can
recall.
communicate with her about any arrangements if you need her to come back, but she's free to go at this point.
Your Honor, we'll reach out to her attorney when we come back.
All right, last thing,
oh boy. This woman. So, okay, so just imagine this is Donna's trial and she's allowed to walk out. And just imagine, say this nice officer is standing out here and, like, standing right out here. And then clink, clink. Oh, that felt like to me they were going to take my children. Here's a question I have, though. How did she know that Ruth wrote that email to the prosecution? That I'd like to know. How did she know that that email was written to the prosecution? Shocking. So, not only did Ruth and Phil and Shelley, Ruth and Phil lose their son, and Shelley lose her brother, they've also lost the only living connection to Dan is those two boys. And never once am I ever going to name the boys' names. I know they're out there. I know other people name them. I refuse to name the boys by their given names. I will give them that much privacy as to that. I can't even imagine what those two young lads are going through. So we're going to end this here, and it would be great if you could like, share, and subscribe. It would help my channel very much. And I will be posting the second trial testifying of her. I can't, because I can't. Her's a bad name right now. So in any of my videos, if you hear me say her, you know it's a bad name. But I'm just trying to be respectful for those two young lads. So I thank you for watching, viewing, liking, sharing, subscribing, and I will see you on the next one.